Welcome back, everyone. 14 minutes after the top of the hour, with the clock ticking for lawmakers to reach a deal in Washington, debt talks are becoming a focus for Republican presidential candidates on the campaign trail. Joining us now is former Minnesota governor and 2012 presidential candidate Tim Pawlenty. Good to see you this morning, Governor.
Good to see you, Gretchen.
So what's your take on this? When you were the governor of Minnesota, you make some really tough decisions, and now we're looking at Minnesota in a complete government shutdown. I know you believe that that could be the microcosm of the macrocosm of the United States.
Well, politicians, many of them are like running water. They go downhill to the point of least resistance, so it's good to have some points of resistance, and this is one of those moments. Last time the Republicans had control of the Congress, they spent too much money, didn't walk the walk, and they shouldn't do that again. This is a chance now to deliver on the principles of living within our means, or at least reducing spending and getting the structural, permanent kinds of reforms that we need. And that's why I've called for things like a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, a cap on spending as a percent of GDP, and in the near term, the kinds of just spending reform that'll get our budget headed in the right direction.
You went after President Obama yesterday with some colorful language. You called the president basically a manure spreader. So you went after him. And in what respect is he a manure spreader?
Well, Brian, you got to get the whole quote in there. It was manure spreader in a windstorm. So
okay,
you know,
let's hear the way you said it. Let's hear it, Governor.
Well, it was just that.
We've had enough fancy speeches. We've had Barack Obama campaigning and being president for the better part of 3 years with all of his soaring rhetoric, with all of his broken promises, with all of his nonsense. I mean, he's like a manure spreader in a windstorm. The stuff is flying all over the place, and it's not pretty. Now we got to clean up the mess.
I get it, Governor, because Iowans would totally understand that analogy. I also get the other analogy within that. But why'd you decide to do that?
Well, it's a metaphor for his policies being misdirected. He's got the country going in the wrong direction. He's throwing out a lot of ideas, but they take the country into the wrong place. They're misguided. So that's why I gave the speech in Chicago a few weeks ago, the most detailed pro-jobs, pro-economic growth speech of any candidate in the race, including the president. It was titled A Better Deal, and it went into the need to reduce business taxes, fix our regulations, have a pro-growth, pro-investment, pro-jobs agenda. Right. And if that's the kind of approach we need, not the Obama grow government approach.
Now, you're going to spend 15 days in July alone and a lot more days in August trying to win the straw poll in Iowa. A lot of people say that you have to be 1 or 2 in Iowa or hang it up. You went after the person who's number 2 and surging, Michelle Bachmann, a congresswoman from your state of Minnesota. Let's listen to how you did it.
Well, I like Congresswoman Bachmann. I've campaigned for her. I respect her. But her record of accomplishment in Congress is non-existent. It's non-existent. And so we're not looking for folks who, just have a speech capabilities. We're looking for people who can lead a large enterprise in a public setting and drive it to conclusion. I've done that. She hasn't.
We should point out, Governor, that this is not the first time that you have criticized Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. You did it about 2 weeks ago as well. But here is her response. I am proud of my record of fighting with resolve and without apology for our free markets, for sane fiscal policies, and in opposition to the advancement of the big government left. I guess your argument is that you believe she never passed any major legislation. And quite frankly, she's your biggest competition in Iowa, right?
Well, I think the polls show she and Mitt Romney and others are ahead of me. I came in 6th place in a poll recently in Iowa, so we have to show some progress. But the point I was trying to make with respect to Congresswoman Bachmann or any other candidate is simply this. It's not a stretch to say that we need somebody in the Oval Office who's going to be President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief who has executive experience leading a large enterprise in a public setting, getting results in balancing budgets, cutting taxes, doing health care reform the right way, no mandates, no takeovers, and the like, and not just talking about it, not just giving speeches at rallies, but leading as an executive and getting results in that kind of setting. And with all due respect, she just doesn't have that kind of experience. And secondly, her record in Congress, as I mentioned before, is, again, great remarks and great speeches, but in terms of results and accomplishments, non-existent.
Right, but you should notice this. The IowaRepublican.com just did a survey, just did a poll. You're 3rd. You picked up 3 points, tied with Herman Cain. Do you agree, 1st or 2nd, or are you going to have to drop out?
Well, I think I'm in 6th or 7th, according to the Des Moines Register poll, which I think is the benchmark poll in Iowa. So we have to show some progress over the next 30 and 60 days. No question about that, Brian. I don't think we need to win it, but we do need to show some good progress.
So I guess the Minnesota nice is going to take a back seat, right, Gov?
Well, again, I don't think it's a disputable point that we should have somebody in the Oval Office who has executive experience along the lines that I mentioned earlier, Gretchen. I think that's a fair point as to any candidate.
Right. All right, Governor Pawlenty, thanks so much for joining us. If you want to find him, his sleeves will be rolled up in Iowa somewhere for the next month or so. Thanks a lot, Governor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Next.